Hello friends, in this video we'll discuss the behavior of some Ukrainians. We've got several stories out of sunny, beautiful Poland. There's the usual drunk guy, the beach hustler, and even a dude who was wanted by Interpol, plus an 18-year-old mama's boy entrepreneur. In short, watch the video until the end, it's going to be very interesting and educational, and we'll draw some conclusions. Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, friends. Give a like to support aerodynamics, to support the working class. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. It only takes a couple of seconds to do these simple things. It's not hard, and it makes me happy. Well, let's get started. The first item on the agenda is news from the glorious Podlasie town of Zambrów. Well, it's not a trivial story. In short, here's the picture. A 39-year-old lady is lying down. A young woman, just 39 years old, a citizen of Ukraine. And she's lying on the sidewalk, tired, exhausted, and not responding to anyone around her at all. Well, passers-by, being kind-hearted people, decide to call the police. After all, who knows what might have happened to her. The police arrive and try to start a constructive conversation, but it turns out the lady is drunk out of her mind. If you know what I mean. And to any attempts to bring her back to reality, she responds with foul language. I'd say a barrage of arguments. They called the doctors, the medics took a look inside, and they summed it up saying, well, physically she's healthy, she's just drunk like a night after a successful raid. The police, showing mercy, said, well, let's take her to the veterinary drunk tank so she doesn't freeze. Well, it's hard to freeze in the summer, but still, just so she doesn't end up under some car. And here's where it gets interesting. They try to put handcuffs on the lady, and, well, let's say she wakes up, the spirit of a berserker comes alive in her. When they loaded her into the carriage and she just went ahead and bit the Polish law enforcement officer. Well, he was sent to the infectious diseases hospital. Honestly, when I read this, I just find it funny. The man was sent to the infectious diseases hospital. What was this lady trying to achieve? Well, okay, I get it. From a tactical point of view, of course, it's a very questionable move, yeah. But maybe she just got confused about where I am, in Zambrów or in Transylvania. And this policeman is an organic source of vitamins. Or maybe she just decided to check how the law works in Poland. Well, the ending of this story is, of course, predictable. She sobered up, the heroine got a whole bunch of charges, assaulting officials, and so on. 3 years, by the way. But that's not all. The law enforcement officers decided that the citizens' combat skills weren't needed on Polish soil. So they handed her over to the border guards in Białystok for deportation. Well, honestly, it's hard for me to explain. You know yourself, you're 39 years old, don't you know? How much can you drink? Where can this lead? Well, some people will never change. Let's move on. Let's move to Silesia and Wojoprzep, the town of Rzeczycy, the local beach. August 15th, real action. Well, it's either real action or complete absurdity. You could call it GTA on the beach. Anyway, it's a hot day, lake, people are relaxing peacefully. A 30-year-old citizen of Ukraine drives onto the site in a Volvo. Later, it turned out the guy had 1.8 per minute of alcohol in his blood. So he didn't just have a little beer, he was basically out of it. Instead of quietly sleeping in his car, he decided to start a real demolition derby. He rammed into 10 parked vehicles, 8 cars and 2 campers, well, mobile homes. The people on the beach, of course, were a bit shocked by such audacity. Witnesses tried to block him, but our racer kept pressing the gas until he simply got stuck between the wrecked cars. Well, at that point, the vacationers restrained him and took his keys. Of course, the offender started acting aggressively. Well, what else? How dare you Poles get into a fight? But they held him until the police arrived. But fortunately, none of the people were hurt. Well, let's hope the cars are insured. And do we justify this kind of behavior? No, of course we don't. Can it be explained? Well, maybe the guy just played too much GTA and decided he'd get bonus points for something like this. Well, and he honestly didn't believe that just because he's in a Volvo, he'd be inside some kind of invincible tank. That's the end of the story. Well, it's sad because it turned out he was actually banned from driving. And for drunk driving with an active ban in Poland, you can easily end up behind bars for 8 years. That's how it is. Stupidity, alcohol, wrecked cars, and the prospect of spending the next few years behind bars. Or maybe he'll be deported and they'll say, we don't need this kind of stuff here at all. Dear Ukrainians, deal with it yourselves. You already have a ban. Where are you going? You're driving and drunk on top of that. I just can't explain this. Anything can happen in life, right? It happens. Maybe you had a bit too much at a friend's place. Maybe you were a little rude to a taxi driver. Maybe it was even justified. But things like that happen. But you already have a court-ordered driving ban. And yet you go and drive drunk again. Next, the following story, the city of Chrzanów. The police detained a 64-year-old citizen of Ukraine, who, as it turned out, was on the international wanted list. And he was discovered. Oh, friends, it's a very sad story. I wouldn't want to say something like this, but what can you do? Yes, objectivity requires it, a rather peculiar circumstance. On August 8th, the police received a report about a man who was deliberately exposing himself on the balcony of one of the residential buildings. Some people like to sunbathe, yes, but you have to do it on specially designated beaches, usually in Spain. It was especially unpleasant because this happened not far from a kindergarten. A woman witnessed it, and naturally, such a sight alarmed her. The police arrived at the scene. They identified the apartment where the man was believed to be. They checked his documents. And here, our story takes a completely different turn. A check through the databases showed that the detainee was on the international wanted list under an Interpol red notice. So the guy didn't just smoke somewhere and throw away a cigarette butt. No, the situation is much more serious. Ukrainian law enforcement agencies were searching for him on suspicion of in short, for a sexual offense and a crime against children. Well, clearly, there's something wrong with this guy's head. So the Polish police, came to deal with a rather nasty incident near a kindergarten. And as a result, they found a person whom Ukrainian law enforcement had been trying to find for some time. They detained this guy, who is definitely not our friend. He is 64 years old. My God, man, what's going on in your head? They prepared the necessary documents and notified the departments responsible for international cooperation. And they also involved the diplomats. What exactly are Ukrainian law enforcement accusing this person of, and what will happen next? Now, well, basically there are certain procedures that need to be followed. But yes, it's a rather sad story. It's hard to understand what's going on in this person's head. Yes, but the story itself turned out to be quite revealing. Sometimes, to find an internationally wanted criminal, you don't need any of those things, like Frontex or special forces. All you need is a balcony, a kindergarten, and one attentive passerby. Friends, let's move on. We're heading to the city of Oświęcim. That's Auschwitz in German. An incident happened in the local peace park. Well, in this case, the line between criminal activity and phenomenal stupidity was completely erased. Picture this. It's a quiet summer day, 3 in the afternoon. A police patrol is making their rounds and sees a young guy sound asleep on a bench, 18 years old. A young, handsome Ukrainian. The police officers, keepers of order, responsible people. They come up and ask, "Hey kid, what's going on with you? Are you feeling bad or maybe too good?" "What happened?" The guy wakes up. And actually, he looked pretty disheveled. It's pretty hard to talk to him. And it gets even more interesting. They checked his bag and found a whole arsenal of illegal substances in there. Packaging materials and scales. So basically, the guy was at work but decided to take a nap right in the middle of his shift in front of the whole city. I don't know how to explain this brilliant move. Maybe he was just tired. Or maybe the opposite. He decided to test it out in practice. There's a saying or a theory, if you want to hide something, put it in the most obvious place. Well, there you go. Or maybe he just got carried away tasting his own product and mistook the park bench for the cozy couch at home. In short, the outcome of this whole operation is predictable. After a trip to the hospital and a medical examination, he gave a blood sample. The young man was sent to a detention center. For possession of a large quantity of various substances, he faces up to 10 years in prison. And after serving his sentence, deportation from the country for posing a threat to public order. Well, honestly, it's unclear why we should keep him fed for 10 years at the taxpayer's expense just to send him to Ukraine afterward. It's unclear. Write in the comments if you know. Anyway, instead of a business, he got a ticket to the local prison. Friends, if we put aside the jokes and sarcasm, the conclusion is simple, damn it. In any country, a person is first and foremost responsible for their own behavior. Alcohol does not justify a fight. Being drunk does not give you the right to attack the police. The desire to make money from drugs doesn't turn a person into the hero of a crime drama. It's even stranger to behave like this while in a foreign country. You shouldn't do this in your own country either. And this isn't just about Ukrainians. Anyone who lives in Poland or is there temporarily should understand a simple thing. You will be seen not only as an individual, but also to some extent as a representative of the country you came from. And one stupid act can very quickly turn into another headline. See, these are the problems with foreigners. So the advice, as banal as it may sound, is extremely simple. Don't drive drunk, don't let your friends drive drunk, don't start fights. Drink at home in civilized company if you drink, if you have civilized company. Don't attack the police. Use your head regularly before the situation gets out of control. But in a better country, it's especially important to remember hospitality is not a license for any kind of behavior. I don't know if I managed to get through to anyone, but I think my subscribers are reasonable people. Those who aren't reasonable don't watch or subscribe to my channel. For what reasons, I don't know. I'll share this. Maybe it will save someone in the end from a sentence or deportation. Maybe people don't know that in Poland, if you have a driving ban, you can't get behind the wheel drunk. Those people just don't know. Give it a like. The algorithms will pick up this video. And maybe we'll be able to reach someone. So, friends, while I have the chance, let me remind you. I was asked to send greetings to the working class, of course, to computer guys, machinists, mechanics, and so on. Manicurists, greetings to you. Jewelers from Warsaw. And printers. Printers, I suspect that's in Russian. It means print workers. Big greetings to all of you. If I didn't mention your specialty, your profession, what you do to earn your bread, then sorry, write it in the comments. I'll do it in the next video. We'll do it. Yes, I was also asked to send greetings to retirees. Well, sorry guys. Yeah, I understand that maybe someone on a pension is watching my videos. Big greetings to you. But that's not about the profession as far as I know. Although retirees also earn a living. Let's put it this way, in the long run, through their own work, thanks to the cumulative effect of their labor. All right then, pardon my French. Let's get started. Thank you for your attention. That's all for now. See you next time.